Hello, and welcome to the intro video for the fifth week projects. Let's go ahead and dive right in with project 8. I'll be starting on step 2. It's asking us to set macro security and display the developer tab. So we need to go to the File tab and then go down to Options. And then we want to go to Trust Center. So that's part A. Part B, click the Trust Center settings, then click on Macro Settings. And just um, we want to make sure that whether or not the disable VBA macros with notification is selected. Okay, and then it kind of explains why we want to check for that. Okay, and now we want to go to Customize Ribbon to display Developer tab in our ribbon, and then hit OK. All right, so for step 3, it wants us to save the workbook as a macro enable template. So go to File, Save As, and right now it's on the workbook. We want to go ahead and select Excel macro enable template. Okay, and then go ahead and click Save. Step 4 is asking us to record a macro with relative references to date stamp the sheet. So part A is asking us to then click the Use Relative Reference button, which is in the Developer tab. The Code group, Use Relative Reference. So it's just a highlight button. So when it's grayed out like that with a rectangular outline, that means it's enabled. Now we want to select cell H1. Part C is asking us to restart recording a macro. So let's go ahead and click that. And we want to call it date stamp. We're not going to use the shortcut key. And then make sure this workbook is selected. Yep. In the description box, I'm just going to copy insert date text and paste it in the description and then click OK. So now it's going to start recording the macro. So we do that by typing in equal to and selecting today for the function. So in H1, type in equal to, and then double click on today, and then hit OK. For part H, press the up arrow and then control copy. So what we're going to do, even though it shows today's date, the actual formula value is a function. We want to replace it with the actual text value of the date. So we're going to do that by hitting Control C. And then we're going to paste it again back into its own cell. And then you know I did that because um, there's a paste option button, and then click the paste option button, and then we want to select paste values. Okay, and then you notice that the formula bar shows the date now and not just the equal today function. Press escape to remove the moving border. For part L, it's asking us to click the stop recording button. So so the screen tip for the button is a macros. Okay, well, anyways, it's explaining a little too much. Now he wants to click the use relative reference button, which is, we want to disable the command. So right now, click it. All right, and you know it's disabled when it's no longer have a black rectangular border around it, and it's not highlighted in light gray. For step 5, it's asking us to test the macro. So let's go ahead and delete cell H1, select cell H2, click on the macros button, and then select the date stamp and run it. Yep, it's working. So, so we just verified that we correctly set up the macro for the date stamp. For step 6, he wants us to record another macro, this time with an absolute reference, with absolute references to display unique contractor names. Um, Now it wants us to confirm that the use relative reference button is not active. So, yep, it's not active. Click the record macro button, and we're gonna type in short unique for the macro name. Once again, we're not gonna use the shortcut. And make sure this workbook is selected for store macro in. In the description box, you can either type or copy it. So I'm gonna paste that into the description and then hit OK. So now it's starting to record the macro. So we want to select um, cell I5, which is this one, I believe. Yep. And then we want to, for part H, click up the lookup and reference button, which is in the formula tab, the search book, and then we want to select short. And then we're going to put another function within the short function. So to do that, we click on the name box and then select unique from the drop-down arrow. And now we're in the unique function argument settings. And then we want to select cells B5 to B32. So this one I'm going to select and not type it in. So B5 to B32. It's because they have names for that column. Okay. So you notice that the structure of reference name is table 1 contractor. Now we want to click on the short word short function in the formula bar, which is, let me go ahead and zoom in. It's up here. So if I click on short, um, you notice that the function arguments now is on a short function. Okay. Um, I think we're not going to add any other values in the short function, so we just hit OK, and then we can start our macro recording for this one. So go to developer, stop recording. So step 7 is asking us to test a macro. Um, so select cell I5 and delete it, and then it wants, for step B, wants us to select a different cell. So this is specifically asking us to click on cell A3. Go to the macros button, select short unique and run it. And then you notice it um, repaste the value that we deleted. So that verifies that we selected the macro right. So this is important. You have to make sure, if you go back for step 6, um, you want to, the first step in the recording is part G, is select cell I5. This is the first code in your macro, is to select cell I5. So when you're verifying it in step 7 and it's generating errors, it's most likely because you did not um, select I5 when you're in the recording macro is active. Okay, so you're just gonna have to go to macros, delete it, and then reprogram that macro so that the first step of the second macro is to go to I5 and then paste the value of the short unique function. Okay, so that concludes the intro to project 7. The rest is pretty straightforward. Just once again, you have to pay really close attention to each step. Just double check um, each part before you click OK. All right, so let me go ahead and jump to our last project, which is project 9. All right, so I'll go ahead and start on step 2 for project 9. It's asking us to install solver and an analyst tool pack, or analysis tool pack. Yes. Part A. So we need to go to the options command, which is in the file tab. And at the bottom, this time we want to go to add-ins. And then we want to click on go at the bottom. Okay. And then we want to select, it's a little bit out of order. I wish D is C and C is D, but anyways, Select Solver and Analysis Toolpack, and then hit OK. Step 3, it's asking us to select the Workout Plan Worksheet tab, which is the middle one. Oops. And then from there, it wants us to go ahead and select cell E10. E10. It just wants us to observe that right now it's actually a sum formula. Makes sense. Just for the total. Step 4 is to name a range and add scenarios in a worksheet. So click on the name manager, which is in the formula tab. Define names group. So click on the name manager. So these are all the names right now in column D. So it's just asking us to observe once again. So in E10, it wants us to rename it. So it's called calorie total. Add in. Hit enter. Right, so for part C, it's asking us to select cells D5 to D9. And then it wants us to do a what if analysis. So it's in the data tab, forecast group, what if, and then select scenario manager, and then click on add. For the scenario name is basic plan. Make sure that the changing cells is D5 to D9. I don't know why that comment is there. Not edit the scenario values. Okay, so hit OK. So these are the scenario values right now. We're going to keep it at this current value. And now we want to add another scenario. And this time it's going to be double. Let's, this is seeing what happens if we double the amount of workout a week. And make sure D5 to D9 is selected. Okay, and then the scenario value is going to appear. This time we do want to change, we're going to double it. So this would be 2, 2. I'm just hitting tab on the keyboard to go to the next box. 4, 2. Okay. Close and select B3. Now we're going to use solver to find a maximum uh, calorie burn. So click on the solver button, which is what we added as an add-in. So it's in the far right. Click solver. Select cells E10. So I want to select it because that way it properly makes it an absolute reference in the set objective box. Make sure the max is selected. Click by changing variables cell box. Oh, this one here. And then we want to select D5 to D7. Just the first three, I guess. D5 to D7. Oh wait, that's not the right one. D5 to D7. There we go. Yeah. All right. Step 6 is asking us to add constraints to a solver problem. So we want to click add. And then for cell reference, we want to click on D5. And choose integer as the operator. So, and then the constraint box displays integer to require all the results to be a whole number. Makes sense. And then click on add to add each of the constraints shown here. Okay. So now we want to type in D5. Going to be less than or equal to 4. add again. D5 is greater than or equal to 2. Add. D6 is going to be an integer constraint. And then D6 is lesser than or equal to 3. D6 is going to be greater than or equal to 1. And then we're going to reference D7 and set that to an integer. And in D7, we want to set it so that it's less than or equal to 4. And D7 is going to be greater than or equal to 1. When all the constraints are identified, click OK in the Add Constraint box. Oops. This is a good thing I realize I did D and percent. It's D7. Okay. Gonna hit Add and then hit OK. Oh, okay. So if you look at what I have on my screenshot, um, I believe that's the value you need to have set up. You can also reference a screenshot provided by part F, but once again, that's blurry. So if you want to, you can look at mine and then I'm just double checking. It looks good. Yep. Make sure when all okay. Make sure simplex LP is the solving method. Confirm that the make constraints variable non-negative is selected. Is checkbox. All right. And then click on solve. So the values have changed in here. Now it wants us to save the solver results as a scenario. So click on Save Scenario in the Save Solver Results dialog box. So it's this button here. And then the scenario name is called Solver. Okay. And then make sure we want to select the second option, which is restore the original values, and then hit OK. And so it restored the original values. All right, so that finishes the introduction for project 8. The rest of the project is pretty straightforward, except for step 11. So let me go to step 11, part F. That is asking us, or you, to select odd number cells in column F and apply the matching fill column. So let me kind of jump ahead to show you what they're trying to ask you to do. So right now, you notice the variants don't have the color of this row. So one of the ways to do it is copy the cell that has the color and then click the cell you want to change and then hold Control key, right? Because it's just the odd rows. And then if you right click and select formatting, the paste option, the formatting with the paintbrush. So let me go ahead and zoom that in. You notice it already gave you a preview of what that formatting will look like. So that's how you would do that for step 11, part F. Okay. All right. Thank you for watching and good luck on your last week's projects.